Because right now we have a special guest joining us this morning, and this is about what's happening around the world. In world news headlines, Israel launching in recent days an intense new ground offensive in Gaza City, and an estimated 350,000 Palestinians now displaced. This has also drawn some international criticism. This morning we are joined live here on Zoom by University of North Carolina Chapel Hill political science professor. He's joined us before to weigh in on these events in the Mideast, Navin Boppet. And Professor Boppet, I know we're discussing the escalating conflict there. Thanks, first of all, for joining us here and getting us caught up on Live Impact News.
Thank you.
What does this scale of this mobilization tell us about Israel's military objectives?
So it appears that Israel's military objectives, so what's been stated is that this is going to be an effort to occupy Gaza City, which is the key population center in the Strip. Again, if we look at population movement within Gaza, at the first phase, Gaza City was empty to some extent. There was a large movement out as the bombing escalated, and then the population reconcentrated there as there was a pause slightly in that particular area. And then now it looks like with the effort to stage a ground invasion of it, which is new, that might cause another population exodus. But again, every part of Gaza is potentially under risk, so it's not really clear where people should go.
Oh my goodness. So, so much confusion as to what happens next. From a strategic perspective, how effective are these ground operations likely to help in achieving Israel's motives and stated goals?
So Israel's goal, there are two goals. It seems like one of them has taken the priority. So one goal is to destroy Hamas. The other goal was to release the hostages. Those two oftentimes were in contradiction to each other or were competing with each other, because to release the hostages, it would require Israel to negotiate with Hamas. They're not doing that, and Israel has sort of taken the track where they are aiming to destroy Hamas. So in sort of looking at this invasion, one thing about Gaza is that it is fairly isolated, right? It was cut off before the war. Egypt is not allowing any refugees to come in, so that might improve the chances for Israel to destroy Hamas. But the other thing to sort of say is it's not clear who is Hamas in that population. Hamas is intermixed into the population, and so who is a civilian, who is Hamas, that's not quite clear. So what Israel is going to do there to destroy Hamas, again, it's not clear how they exactly do this. I'd also add that a large portion of Gaza are people under 15 years old, right? So how they actually are identified as Hamas or not. Again, these are some big questions I think that Israel has to answer as to what exactly is the defined level of success. When do you say that Hamas is eliminated? Is it when it's eliminated as an ideology? Is it the entire membership is eliminated? Is it the original membership that's eliminated? Again, those are questions that I don't think have been answered by Netanyahu and his government.
All right, so I'm reading here a United Nations commission concluding that Israel is committing genocide, in their words, in Gaza, an accusation Israel is calling distorted and false. So how significant is this finding then in terms of international law and diplomacy?
So there's two sort of answers to that. One, Israel is typically and likely will continue to be protected by the United States in any international institution, especially in the United Nations. The United States has repeatedly vetoed any effort to try to condemn Israel through that institution. So as long as that's there, Israel, in a sense, has some cover and some protection to continue doing what they're doing. But I should emphasize that almost every other country in the world has basically suggested or is in line with the UN report where they believe that Israel is committing genocide. Now, I'll say again, the definition of genocide, one thing about it, which is sort of the source of contention right now, is that it requires intent. So a big part of it is the intent to destroy a people, along with the other components of the definition. And like in any courtroom, the proving of intent is not easy. So Israel is saying this is part of their effort to destroy Hamas, not necessarily the Palestinian people. But based on the results, I think that's allowed many other countries to conclude that this is an effort at genocide. Certainly that was the conclusion of the UN.
All right. I mean, 350,000 Palestinians, like I said, estimated to have fled. Many staying, though, despite the warnings from Israeli officials. What is this telling us then about the civilian population that is deciding to stay? What are their options?
So there's not many other options to be perfectly clear about it. There's nowhere for them to so Gaza is a very small territory just to begin with. There's no place for them to flee in Egypt. Egypt is trying to stop them from doing that. Jordan is not willing to accept them either. There also is nowhere to go in terms of going directly into Israel. That's not also an opportunity. So on one hand, there's no place for them to go. On the other hand, I think it's important to sort of recall this is these people's home, right? And so there's a real connection to that land and a real, I think, resistance to leaving it, like there would be for anybody. Again, this is something we see in any situation where we see refugees. Is it's hard for people to leave their home. It's where they are. It's where their lives are. So it's just difficult to uproot people and tell them to go, and then add to it, even if they wanted to. There really doesn't seem to be a place for them to actually go.
Wow. And so from here, the trajectory, where does it go? How can this be resolved, or, how could it evolve from here? How do you look ahead?
Well, it looks like right now the military operation has sort of taken precedence. There was some efforts at negotiations. So again, to sort of step back, it looks like the Trump administration had wanted some form of negotiated settlement where the hostages get released and Hamas disarms. Those two things are not necessarily compatible, because Hamas would not necessarily release hostages if it meant they had to completely cease as an organization. And then add to it, again, it's hard to identify who is Hamas, and if all the Hamas members are actually still in this particular area. Israel recently struck Qatar because they believed that the Hamas members were there. So again, it's not clear how exactly the negotiated settlement can work. And if that's what the United States and Israel stick to in that sense, then the negotiation doesn't look like it's going to be a very successful one, which means that the military operation will likely continue. And that seemed to be the conclusion, I'd say, of Secretary of State Marco Rubio in his visit there, that they're just sort of a resignation that this military operation has to continue. I don't know how that necessarily ends, again, because the end state has not been clarified.
And as one who teaches and studies political violence and international conflict, for our broader audience, what should viewers understand about what we're witnessing now there between Israel and Gaza?
Well, it's a very large-scale conflict for sure, right? So in terms of population, if we control for population, right, this is as bad as it gets. And there have been observers from other major conflicts throughout the world that have been in Gaza and looked at this. And again, this is a very, very violent conflict. It likely will have very significant implications going forward. Again, one thing we can say is that Israel, as a result of this, while they continue to have strong relations with the United States, they are getting increasingly politically isolated abroad, and that seems to be something that Netanyahu and the government's willing to tolerate. So again, that's going to be something that's going to be a political cost to Israel as a result of this. But I think the other thing to think about is what happens to the Palestinians or especially those in Gaza that are absorbing this, and what happens to their lives after this. And that's, again, this is a very significant level of destruction for those individuals to try to recover from this. That's going to be an enormous task.
Wow. So much to hear and see and witness from afar. We thank you, Professor Nevin Boppet from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, as always, for weighing in, giving us some understanding about what's happening there. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.